Hey, welcome to Genre Exposure, a film podcast. Join us as we explore the wide world of cinema, broadening our horizons one movie at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Dustin, and as usual, I'm here with Michael.
Hey!
And Jason.
Hello, everyone.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
I kind of feel better about that intro than I did the last one. Where
That was a very good high you did.
A good hey.
Getting used to it?
Good hey. Yeah, maybe. Not really.
Okay.
It's fine.
How are you doing, Dustin?
You know, it's been a long week. I've had to put in a lot of overtime. I don't want to bitch about it. Instead, I want to say I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everyone listening in that's coming along with us on this journey.
Well, thank you.
That's sweet. Thank you.
On those long days, knowing that I'm looking forward to this pulls me through, so.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, we look forward to it too, man. We appreciate you.
Killer.
I think I kind of look forward to it. Okay. Yeah, well, let's get rolling. What'd you guys watch this week?
Dustin, how about you go first?
Sure, I'd be glad to. So, I've been pretty positive on all of these the whole way we've been going so far, and I finally kind of got my... You know, I don't want to call it my first dud, but I wasn't sure how I felt about it. So there was a movie that I rented back when I was in high school called Cthulhu Mansion, directed by Juan Piquer Simon.
Yeah, they're going to butcher... You probably butchered that.
It sounded good to me. I liked it.
If I'm wrong, write in. Please correct me. I would like to know, because this guy also directed Slugs and Pieces. And
Pieces is cool.
Yeah, those are both pretty
Slugs
wild.
is fun, too.
I don't think I've seen Slugs.
Yeah, it's great.
So it was kind of just when I first discovered this idea of like Cthulhu, the Cthulhu mythos, Lovecraft, all of that, and I found this film that's called, hey, Cthulhu Mansion. Must be about Cthulhu stuff. So I eagerly rented it. I watched it, and I was like, I don't know if I understand what Cthulhu is really. And then later I got into the books and started researching and learned everything. And this movie kind of just faded into my memory until my favorite, Vinegar Syndrome, have restored it in glory on Blu-ray. So I do have the blue.
Take your shot.
Yep, take the shot. It's been sitting on my shelf, and I thought, you know what? Let's go back. Maybe it's not as weird as I remember. Maybe it's a little better. And it's about this aging magician named Chandu. He does like the stage shows and stuff, very much like a Houdini type. And he has this interest in magic and the occult. And one day he finds this occult book that's just titled Cthulhu on the cover.
Okay.
And he tries to incorporate that into his act. He ends up summoning some kinds of creatures, and his wife explodes into flames.
Wow.
Oh, God. Okay.
So it's a pretty crazy opening, but then you fade to this carnival, and there's some, like, scummy-looking, like, you know, teens. They're running around trying to get drugs off of someone. They have all these scheming. Each one is completely reprehensible.
As teens typically are.
You hate them all. You're just like, when will these people die?
Okay, I don't condone that part about teens. They're kind of reprehensible sometimes, but not necessarily I want you to die. Okay.
Hashtag not all teens.
Definitely. So in the scheme of things, they kill a guy. They get a bunch of coke from him. They're planning to sell it, or one guy is like indebted to someone else. In the end, to escape the police, since they've murdered people in the park, they kind of abduct Chandu, his daughter, and his assistant, and go back to his mansion to hide out for a while.
His Cthulhu mansion.
His Cthulhu mansion. And literally, the gate as you go in, there's a giant Cthulhu written above the gate.
Wow, okay.
This seems like a bad idea.
Yeah. They get there, they're staying the night to kind of blow things over, and there's an entity kind of sealed in the basement. Gets out, creeps around, and spooky stuff starts happening.
Does it?
So then that's kind of the problem, is there's really nothing to do with Cthulhu in this film other than the title, the names there. There is an occult book. You would think they would go like, hey, Necronomicon, you know, Book of Ebon.
There's hundreds to choose from.
Plenty, yeah. You can take your pick. But there's none of that. There's no fish-looking creatures, no tentacles. It's very much more like a haunted house kind of film. Like if this was one of those La Casa sequels, I could see that.
Right.
What year was this?
Oh.
Late 80s, I believe.
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to say 89.
1 second. It's
maybe even 90.
actually it's 91.
Oh, interesting.
But it has that feel of like a late 80s film.
So what else was going on in 91 that maybe they wanted to cash in on the Cthulhu thing? Like, was there... How far away are we from, like, Reanimator?
Reanimator was 85.
So we're far away. Okay.
Yeah.
So the idea is out there to kind of do Lovecraft in film.
Right, but just to botch it horribly.
Yeah.
I think that the fact that, you know, Cthulhu was public domain name is probably something they just picked up on and said, yeah, we'll get this.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, would I recommend it? I think that if you like those La Casa films and just a good like haunted house movie, it's worth a watch. There are some amazing special effects. There's this monster that comes out of the fridge at one point, and it's just these like giant puppety claws, and that's all you see of it. And that is very, very cool.
Okay.
So some good effects, boring story, unlikable characters,
Check.
a little
Check.
dry.
Check.
Sounds like early 90s direct-to-video releases.
Yeah,
Cool. All right.
so that's me.
I'm sorry that you got a dud.
It's okay. I had fun watching it. I don't think it would come up in my esteemed like rating of things, but it was cool to revisit it.
Nice.
I'm going last because
Okay.
you know what I watched.
All right,
Yeah,
Jason,
I
what do you
do.
got?
Because you were there.
I have a fun little movie from 1976 called The Oily Maniac.
Ooh, you keep having these weird ones that are
Yes,
neat
yes.
sounding.
Sounds very erotic.
It is not the Harvey Weinstein story.
oh.
It is a Hong Kong film directed by Ming Hua Ho, who is best known probably for Black Magic 1 and 2 and The Flying Guillotine.
Oh, I love the flying guillotine.
I've heard of those.
Yeah,
Never seen them.
Those are all fun movies. And it stars Danny Lee as the titular oily maniac.
Why is he oily?
I don't like
We'll get to that.
Okay.
Now, you may know Danny Lee from The Killer, John Woo movie.
Oh, cool. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so he went on to have a great career, do a lot of things.
A lot of oily things.
And some not so oily. But it's based on a real Malaysian folk creature called Orang Maniac. And I'm probably butchering that, and I apologize. But yeah, it's an actual creature, and in the movie, he takes on the oily maniac persona, almost like a superhero. First, to fight crime. There are these thugs who are trying to swindle his love interest out of her inheritance, out of her plantation she's got. And so he becomes the oily maniac to attack them and kill them and stop them. And he can run super fast. He can jump high distances. He can spew oil on enemies. He can turn himself into an oil slick and move really fast or go under doors and stuff. And when he does that, it's great because it is quite literally the music from Jaws when he does that. I think there's there's one half note they threw in there, thinking, "Oh, they're never gonna recognize this."
They won't
Big John
recognize one of the most recognizable scores in the last 20 years.
The year before this came out in '76. So Jaws had just come out the year before, and they're already ripping it off.
I mean, why not? It's John Williams. Just go and rip him off.
So, do you think he's Avengers material? He kind of sounds like a rejected X-Men or something.
Well, it's very strange because, maybe because most superheroes tend to have that dark period. Mm-hmm. Because he starts off fighting the bad guys, great. But then this love interest of his rejects him. And then he decides, oh, women are horrible. I must
Yikes.
Yeah, kill all these women who are just horrible to men and scheming and it gets kind of problematic.
I don't know you come back from that. Like, I don't think the X-Men are going to want you on their team after you've gone full misogyny.
I would hope
Probably not.
I would hope not. But toward the end, he starts to be like, okay, well, this is bad, and he starts fighting the bad guys again. And I'm just going to spoil it for you because he's defeated. What do you think could stop the oily maniac?
Kitty litter.
Igniting him on fire and letting him burn
Bingo.
out. Wow.
Yes.
I like mine better. I mean, because when you spill oil in your garage, you throw some kitty litter on it.
The
and,
kitty
soaks
litter
it up.
might take a while. I think he'd probably still be able to be all sludgy and.
The fire's going to be cooler.
That's fine. Agree to disagree. Kitty litter. That's fine. That's
Hey,
fine.
you go make that movie, man. I'll watch it.
It's okay to be wrong.
He kept going on about how invincible he was, and all it took was just a spark, and poof, he's up in flames.
Especially in a place where everybody smokes, that seems really dangerous.
Sure, right.
Everyone smokes there, so
watch your hubris. Don't let that get carried away, because someone will find your weakness. But it's a very fun movie. There's a little bit of sleaze in it, kind of just the right amount to make it interesting and different. And it's streaming right now on Amazon Prime, and it looks great. They got a good print of it.
How did you find out about it?
It just came up in one of my suggestions.
Because the Amazon Prime algorithm for you is like, we don't know what the fuck you're watching, man. Just here. How about this oil guy? You want to watch oily men?
I think he would like the oily maniac.
I mean, it could be going on the other oily men suggestions.
It's probably
that you
all
got
the
going on
hunky boy jokes we made with Psycho Gorman.
You're probably right.
We've probably opened a floodgate.
The phones have heard us, and now they've altered the algorithms on everything.
I do not care for oily maniac. Or do I?
We all know the answer.
So, yes, it's a great movie. It's a fun movie. Just, there's a little bit of sleaze in there. That's fine. It's good. It's old. But it's fun. I recommend it.
Killer. It's going right on my watch list.
Awesome. How about you, Michael? You wanted to go last, and I know what you watched.
Yeah, I watched several, but this one I just got to talk about.
Okay.
I watched Verotika.
We were supposed to watch that together, man. Come on.
Yeah, well, it happened, and Dustin, don't do
No?
it. Don't. Okay, I'm gonna start off.
Well, one question first. Did you watch it alone?
No,
No? Okay.
no. Jason and I actually watched it with those other dudes.
Oh, you bastards.
I think we did you a favor though, because
I'm going to let you talk. I'm going to let you finish, but I think you're wrong. Please continue.
okay.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right, so Verotika, what's it about? Fuck if I know. It's directed by Glenn Danzig of Misfits fame,
Love him.
Danzig fame,
Samhain.
Samhain fame. So, like, Glenn Danzig, cool. We can agree, cool. Glenn Danzig, maybe not so much latter. Glenn Danzig albums are kind of hit or miss.
Here and there.
But it is an anthology film with 3 different stories, which are not connected at all. We are introduced to them by Glenn's own version of the Crypt Keeper, which, honestly, I don't know her real name. Red Letter Media calls her Boobarella, and that's the only name that's going to come to my head now.
She introduces herself as Morella.
Morella.
Boobarella is better. Not my name, but, it's... that's the only thing I can think of her name is now. The film stars mostly all porn actresses. And if you check out their IMDb credits, you'll get a good laugh. Maybe those are prestigious movies in the porn industry. I don't know.
Well, they have very colorful titles.
Yeah,
Are
yeah.
you implying that they can't act?
Yes. But I will say I don't think it's all their fault.
Okay.
I think
Direction does matter.
Yes. So the first story of the trilogy is a lady has eyes for nipples, and
interesting.
She cries, and the nipples cry, and her nipple eyes cry, and they drop onto a very, very bad CG spider. And said CG spider then turns into
A very, very bad makeup job.
Now, it's okay.
It's okay. If it was shot correctly, it would be okay.
Yeah, because the makeup itself... Okay, so... All right. So as one would do if a nipple tear were to fall on a spider and turn the spider into like a big human form, that kind of looks like Goro from Mortal Kombat, because, obviously he's got the 2 legs,
Right.
and then he's got 2 extra arms that don't move. They're just locked in a forward position for the entire segment.
Yeah.
But then his actual arms, they do all the heavy lifting.
This is his grappling arms.
Yeah, those are his grappling arms.
Well, actually, he uses them to break necks.
He's the neck breaker.
He's the neck breaker.
And for some reason, the reason we say that in a French accent is because for some reason, Glenn Danzig decided to have this segment set in France with all non-French actors
Doing a French accent.
doing a French accent.
Yikes.
It's awful. It's horribly bad. Now, there is some redeeming qualities for this one because this one is just engaging enough that you're like, what the fuck? And it's laughable. It's sad laughable because no one seemed to tell Glenn that this doesn't work, that it's real bad.
Okay, here's the next question. Is that the point?
I don't think that he was self-aware on this. I really don't. Because there are some interviews with Danzig as this movie premiered in 2019 where audiences laughed. Like, they straight up laughed at the movie. And Danzig said in things afterwards, he's like, well, it's cool, guys, it's cool. You laughed in places that I didn't think you'd laugh, but it's cool, it's cool.
Oh, he should have Tommy Wiseau'd it, man. Just lean in.
I think, and this movie did get compared to The Room.
I could see that.
I have not seen The Room, which grew a lot of ire from everyone else last night when I admitted that I hadn't seen
You
The
have
Room.
to see The Room. You really
You got to
do.
see it at
It's
least
so
once.
great.
But so the first segment, fine. You know, it's laughable. Second segment, I don't understand it. It's about a stripper who cuts faces off.
Her face is deformed. She has like scars on her face.
It's not that deformed.
Right. Okay. Well, she's unhappy with the way she looks.
Okay.
So her solution is to go remove the faces off of other women.
Yeah.
Now she puts them on, and then she strips. That's how she earns her living. But she's also wearing like a mask.
Yeah, she's wearing
veil.
a fucking mask over the skin mask.
She anticipated the COVID pandemic and was already masked.
I kind of wondered if this was like, if I hadn't have known this released in 2019, I almost would have thought this was like their story cover for the pandemic.
That'd be a more interesting story.
It probably would.
So sleazier eyes without a face is what you're saying.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I'm almost getting mad thinking about it.
I can see it on your face. I know this is a podcast, so there's no visual aid for people, but I've watched you this whole time straining, trying to like formulate your words.
Because I can't. I don't know.
Oh, it's bad. I think I enjoyed it more than Michael did.
You did. It was clear that you did.
I'm a connoisseur of bad movies.
Now now that the Band-Aid's been ripped off, I'm not opposed to going back and watching it again. And now I think that we should. Because Jason and I now know what's coming. Mm-hmm. I want to watch it with you just to watch you the whole time like, oh shit, here it comes. Dustin's going to see it. So that's actually probably going to be a more enjoyable experience for me, watching it the second time with you who has not seen it. Which, we talked about that before. Like, I got excited about Hard Boiled, watching Dustin watch it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you just have a thing about watching people, I guess.
I do. It's cool. It's cool. I mean, I always try to make sure that they're aware that I'm watching them, you know.
And it's consent first. That's very important.
It's important that I get consent first. If you're not cool with it, I'll not watch you, but okay, cool, whatever. So, Verotika.
Wow.
Streaming on Shudder is where we watched it.
Nice.
Which, if you don't have Shudder by now and you're listening to this podcast, it's like $5 a month.
It's great. What are you waiting for?
And we're not sponsored. We just love them.
I mean, I had Shudder, and I think it's even cheaper if you buy the year.
I'm sure it is.
Because, I mean, it renewed, and I didn't know it renewed, and it was so little that I didn't even notice it on my credit card.
Or you're just that rich. You didn't notice.
It's definitely not that.
Oh, okay.
It could also be that I'm poor at managing money.
It could be many factors.
But either way, Shudder. Get Shudder. So, yes, we watched it on Shudder. It looked good. As good
as it could.
It's in focus.
It is in focus.
Well, that says a lot.
I thought that it was just our friend's TV, that he had it set up for the stupid real life thing, and it looks like everything is smooth, but that's just the way it was shot.
Yeah, no.
It was just shot like that. It was shot like a
soap opera.
Like a soap opera.
Very
yeah.
flat, very,
Because I was going to rib him and be like, dude, why are you watching this on this smooth motion crap? Well, you know we don't watch that in cinema. No, it was just the way it was shot. So, yeah, if you are with some people and you're inebriated, you should be for this film. I think that it needs a little booster. Check it out, I guess.
All right, Jason, do you have any subsequent thoughts to add on about that?
Not really. No, it's just I love Glenn Danzig. I love the man. I love his music. You know, he's great, and it's just sad to see this done by him because I think I have a feeling of what's in his head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he just doesn't have the experience to put it onto screen.
And he didn't do what a good filmmaker would do, which is hire people around you.
To tell him, hey, this doesn't look right. You can see the seams of the monster's costume here, Glenn. Maybe we should shoot it from a different angle. You know, there's no one around to do that.
Just based on your description of it, it kind of sounds almost like those, kind of like the gothic, little bit erotic thriller horror kind of things. Like you think of like Vampire Lovers or something like that.
Yeah, definitely, especially the last segment is very much like that Hammer film wannabe.
Yeah. I do have one more thing I want to talk about real quick. It's not a movie, so I made sure to bring a movie this time before I talk about this.
Good.
On Netflix, they dropped an anime for Pacific Rim.
I saw that released, and I'm stupid excited about
Pacific
that.
Rim the Black. I was able to check it out. It's only 7 episodes, so it's real quick to get through. It's set in the same continuity as the other films, so if you enjoy those at all, it's right there for you, right in it. They pull more from the mythos of the first film and probably the style where there's the mechs are slower and they have that weight to them.
That's probably for the better.
They do acknowledge the second film, but very lightly, so I thought they handled that well. The second film for me was not. You can't live up to the first one.
It didn't have Del Toro's
Yeah.
touch on that one.
It
like
wasn't
it should have.
bad. It wasn't bad.
No, it's still fun as hell. I still enjoy watching it, but that one felt a little more Transformers.
I think so too.
I don't know. I could actually tell what was going on, so I wouldn't compare it to Transformers.
Well,
So, The Black is set in Australia, and it's a little bit after the second film. It seems like the kaiju are coming back again. Now their scheme is that they sort of open portals and just, like, flood a bunch through there and just try to, like, mass a spot and then shut the portal so they don't have a repeat of the first film.
Okay, makes sense.
So they blitz Australia. It gets overran. They kind of have to abandon everything. And you follow this brother-sister duo. At the start, they're kids, and their parents are Jaeger pilots. They get left with some survivors, and their parents go off to get help and never return. And so you kind of skip ahead to them as teenagers. They stumble upon an abandoned training facility.
naturally.
With a Jaeger that's converted just to teach new pilots. So it's got no weapons, but it's in pristine condition. And it's got a support AI to kind of guide people. So with that support, they start to kind of trek across these blasted areas of Australia, which is called the Black, which is where the title comes from.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
And they have to deal with other survivors, kaiju, and it was a very well done, well presented story, I thought. They really give it time to breathe. With a lot of mecha anime, sometimes they try to have like a fight every episode, and that can sometimes muddy up the story. But here they really gave it room to breathe.
Cool.
I'm excited to hear that you liked it because I was worried about it. I got really excited because I love kaiju.
Yeah, me too,
mean,
man.
that's like, I'm probably, I don't want to go anymore because it's going to sound creepy if I start talking about how much I love kaiju. But I saw it was being released and I was like, no, please be good. Please be good. So if you liked it, then I'm super excited.
I give
to
it my
check
highest recommendation. The animation is that sort of kind of 3D, like cell-shaded look.
I like that, though.
I know the Japanese studio that did it. I can't think of their name. They did Knights of Sidonia, which was another mecha anime that Netflix has licensed to.
I'm excited to watch it now.
If you dig Pacific Rim, check it out.
I do feel really bad that we watched Verotika without Dustin now, though.
It's okay. We'll get to it.
There's so many other movies to watch, though.
There's always
we can't
more.
get everything in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we should start talking about this week's movie then.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea. My pick was...
Oh, do you want me to say it?
If you want to, sure.
Dead. Buried. Dead. Embedded.
He is, of course, referencing the Alien Sex Fiend song, Dead and Buried, which is the name of this movie. It's from 1981, directed by Gary Sherman. It is about these murders that are occurring in this New England town of Potter's Bluff. It seems that any tourist or transient that comes into the town is killed by a group of people, usually in a vicious, horrific way, and they are being recorded the entire time. People are taking pictures. There's a guy filming with like an 8mm camera in this big light rig, and it's up to the sheriff of the town to find out what's going on and get to the bottom of things.
I'm going to say when we started this movie, it kind of lulls you in a little bit. There's a dude taking photographs on a beach. You know, it kind of shows you, Potter's Bluff. It's your kind of nice New England town, good fishing town, good people. You know, a little odd.
Sure.
A little odd people, but good people. And we get some nudity, like, within the first 5 minutes of the movie, and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's the kind of movie we're going to get here.
Yeah, I really
Okay.
didn't know what kind of film it was going to be based on that intro.
Yeah, it's super strange the way it opens because it just throws you for a loop. And as soon as the lead who thinks he's going to score with a chick on the beach that he just met, which seems like a bad idea, I'm just going to say you should probably, if that happens to you in real life, good on you, but also you should probably be careful.
Use a little discretion.
Because, what happened to him was he got socked over the head by a bunch of fishermen and then strung up and burned.
Yeah.
And it's so, like, shocking and visceral how they just pop out, and immediately it is like, poof, they are going at him, capturing him, tying him up, torturing him.
It had it didn't slack off on the violence of that.
No,
It's a very
not at
brutal
all.
attack without being overly bloody or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just very brutal.
It didn't need to have the same kind of brutality that like Last House on the Left had or anything like that.
No.
You don't need that in this movie. But the tone was there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The tone was definitely there. Just not quite the, oh my God, I need a shower kind of a thing that followed Last House on the Left.
And it's so weird, the fact that they all have cameras and they're filming it, that almost immediately sets up this mystery of what's going on, because you're like, why are they doing that?
Yeah, who'd be documenting this murder?
He is a cameraman, so is it that, or do they have some other purpose?
That's what I thought, too. I thought, okay, are they just, like, mocking him because she makes comments about how his camera's so nice and everything, and I just, camera envy kind of a thing, and you're like, okay, whatever. So I thought maybe they were just mocking him with his own thing, but that turns out to not be the case.
Nope. And so then his body is found horribly burned in his van, which is upside down, like off the side of the street. The sheriff, played by James Ferrantino, the character's name is Dan Gillis. He's there investigating the crime. He's hanging out with the tow truck driver, who is played by Robert Englund.
Yeah, you asked us when it was on. You were like, "Who's that guy? Who's that guy?" And
I was waiting for someone to say something. And
in that first scene, it's hard to recognize him.
It's a little dark.
He looks familiar.
Right.
He looks very familiar, and you're like, "I think I know that guy. I should know that guy." But he's super young.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
He's really young.
This is one of his earliest film credits, I believe.
So I had a quick question for you guys since this came up. What is your favorite non-Freddy Robert Englund role?
For me, that would be the role of the alien Willie in V.
Nice. Michael?
I don't know if you put me on a spot.
Okay, well, I'll do mine, and you think about it real quick.
He sounded so wounded.
This is going to color what people think of me, maybe, but I love him in Tobe Hooper's Eaten Alive from 1971.
Oh, sure, yeah.
He is so hilarious in that film.
Yep. Nope, that's a good pick.
I think his name's Buck, I think?
He's Buck.
Yeah, Buck.
He's there to do something. So the sheriff and Robert Englund are waiting for the coroner/medical examiner to get there. And eventually he does pull up in this old Cadillac hearse. He's playing this old-timey music. Played by Jack Albertson is the character's name. The character's name is William Dobbs, played by the actor Jack Albertson. And
I was looking on this. That was actually his last theatrical performance.
That's right. Yeah, he died during post-production, actually, like 6 months after they wrapped.
Very sad. He was great.
It is sad. His career went all the way back to vaudeville, and people would know him mostly as Grandpa Joe in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
I didn't even make that connection.
I didn't know that was him.
That's him. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me that when we were watching it?
Because I didn't know that then.
Oh. That's fine. That's cool. We learn things as we research these films.
That's the whole point, right?
And we're like, oh, cool, that guy was
I've also actually, side note, never been that big a fan of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. As much as I love Gene Wilder, I've never just liked that movie that much.
Oh, it's fun.
It's, I don't know. I don't like it as much as everyone else does. I don't knock them for it. I mean, it's fun. But it just never was my...
Yeah, it never clicked with me.
It wasn't quite my thing.
So he shows up, and he's taking his time being nice and casual. And he goes down to inspect the body, and suddenly, and the guy's hanging upside down, horribly burned. Most of his face is gone. You see an eyeball, and this guy looks charbroiled. But then suddenly he screams and moves. And that
was a fun scene.
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of the first real shocking scenes of the movie.
I always forget in podcasts that they can't see me bouncing and smiling. Yes. So how do I emote bouncing and smiling?
You've told us now. So
okay.
Yeah, there you go.
We're good.
And one of the coolest things I realized doing research about this is that was not a made-up actor. That was a puppet head. That was a full-size puppet that the great Stan Winston, who worked on this movie, did. And it is utterly convincing.
Yeah, I thought it was him. I thought it was his head in makeup.
I had no idea. But
it looked
the whole thing's fake.
Like, it looked a little stiff.
Because he's dead.
Yeah. Embedded.
But
not
yet.
Not yet bedded. But it looked a little stiff, but you kind of thought, like, well, it could be because he's got a lot of prosthetics on, and it's probably
That's what I thought.
Feel good, but damn.
Yeah.
Stan Winston went hard.
Well, his skill is all over this film. There's
Yeah.
some great moments, effect-wise, all throughout.
Yeah. And
so before we get a little too deep in here, we are genre exposure. What genre is this film?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. A lot of sources call it a slasher horror film, but I don't think that's appropriate.
So I consulted a few places, and I don't know if this is absolute, but what I found was a horror mystery.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, because I don't think it has the full-on effect of slasher. I don't think you don't have a singular killer.
No,
Right.
it's not very slasher. I also would accept probably supernatural horror.
Okay, and I have a subsequent question.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be mad at me, Jason. Is this a zombie film?
This is a zombie film.
Interesting.
I'm going to agree with that, too.
Okay.
And we'll find out why shortly.
Yeah, because not necessarily in the sense that we think, that we're trained to think when we think zombies.
Right. Right.
I was just curious because off air, you and I had a debate.
We did.
About 28 Days Later.
Yeah, what makes a zombie movie a zombie movie?
Yeah, fair.
Right.
I think I want to add a tertiary genre for this.
Okay, what are you thinking?
That we'll find out later.
Okay.
Lovecraftian horror.
I would agree with you, 100%.
Yeah, that's...
We'll get into that.
We'll talk about that.
It's no Cthulhu Mansion, but yeah, I could see the Lovecraft
But
Mansion.
this could, once we start talking about it, you'll see how this could fit the mythos pretty easily.
Sure, absolutely.
Easily, this film is more to do with Cthulhu than Cthulhu Mansion. Just hands down.
All right. Unintended segue there. Cool.
Nice.
All right, so we've got a murder.
We
We've got
do.
a detective.
Well, an attempted murder, because he's still alive.
Yeah, he's hanging in there.
But
For now.
the sheriff is hot on the case of the burn victim. And,
Oh, God.
sorry. And he's trying to figure out exactly what happened here. And we learn very quickly, because he goes to a cafe the next day, and the locals are asking him about it. And his server at the restaurant was one of the women, actually the very woman that set him on fire on the beach
Right.
to begin with.
Yeah.
So automatically we're clued in that, hey, it's the townspeople doing this,
Right.
which is interesting because usually with these movies you're trying to figure out who the killer is.
Right. And my first thought was like, is this sort of a cult thing? Is there going to be like everyone's coming out in robes at some point?
Right.
Yeah.
And so then we get to this new couple with their child, right? That's the next?
Well, there's a pretty important scene before that.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Because he goes to visit the burn victim in the hospital.
Oh, right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so they go talking to him, and this guy's basically in a coma. He's not waking up anytime soon, or at least he's not cognizant. They leave, they go out talking, and in the background we see a nurse come up. But it's actually the woman on the beach that he talked to in the beginning, who he had named Lisa.
Yep.
And Lisa was calling him Freddy. We don't even get the guy's real name. I think we do later. But anyway, people keep calling him Freddy. And this comes into a great kill. Because she walks in and he wakes up and you can see the terror on his face. His face is in bandages. He's got this one big wide eye. And, she's like, I'm sorry, you're feeling bad. Now this will make you feel better. And she brings out a syringe with the longest needle I've ever seen. And just plunges it right into his open eye.
Yeah, it's good ocular kill.
Yeah.
Yep. At every kill in this movie, it's so harsh and so in your face when it happens.
And also, like the previous one, when we see his body in the van and it turns out it's a dummy, the whole body in this scene's a dummy.
God, man.
The actor's not there.
There are films that, and Nicotero talks about this a lot in interviews that he does, that there are some guys, when their studio gets big and they start being contracted to other films, they obviously can't be, you can't get Greg Nicotero on every single film set that you're doing.
Right.
But K&B Effects will have multiple projects going, but he can't be there. So they'll send other people with them, and you kind of hope that you get the best.
Sure.
And
get their understudies and
yeah,
stuff.
and thankfully they all try really, really hard to do their best. But this was not the kind of movie that you would have thought Stan Winston would have been there for.
I mean, he brought it. He just brought it. Yeah, it's amazing. I cannot believe that was another just dummy head again, another puppet.
Yeah, because I'm still I'm thinking about that scene right now, and I don't think that I would have, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah,
right.
There's no way.
Can't tell. At all. And the way they did the eye kill was that they reversed the film. They started off with the syringe in the glass eye because he had drilled this little tiny hole for it, and they put the syringe in the end of the eye, and filming in reverse because when you take it out, now it looks like you're putting it in, but the lid closes and everything, and it just looks so realistic. It's amazing.
That's so cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was there behind the scenes footage of this? Like,
I could not find anything of him actually working on anything like any of the behind
that would be
the
so
scenes
cool
stuff.
to see.
Yeah,
That would be so awesome.
That would be great.
But I'm
I
a
don't-
special effects nerd. So.
I don't think they filmed it, so.
Oh, well.
But it's there on the screen to see.
Yeah, you can definitely check that out for sure.
Yeah.
So now we get the new family.
Yeah, eventually, then the murder happens.
There's some in between. We get to meet his wife,
Janet.
Janet.
They have a super weird relationship, and
Yeah.
you can tell there's something going on between them. She also looks like she's about 30 years younger than him.
She's very young. It's Melody Anderson plays the role.
Yeah, and you might also recognize her from another cult film. Anybody know?
No.
The producers were happy to get her because she had just worked on Flash Gordon.
Ooh.
Cool.
That had not been released yet. And everyone's thinking, oh, this is going to be the next Star Wars. This is going to be huge. This is going to get us a ton of publicity.
I mean, to some people, it was the next Star Wars. Not to the rest of
And then,
us.
of course, it's a colossal flop and no one cares about it.
Right.
That's sad. She's
Yeah.
a very good actress.
No, she's great. She's really good. No, she's great, and she's great in this. But yeah, they have kind of a strange, distant sort of relationship. Like, he's told by one of the townspeople, the hotel owner, that the guy, Freddie, that was burned, that his wife knew him.
Yeah.
And the sheriff was like, what? Okay. So he's trying to talk to his wife about it, and she was passing it off like he was coming to take pictures for, like, the school or something.
Selling
like
them
that.
camera equipment, I think. Is
Yeah,
what it was.
that's it. Selling
Yeah.
them camera equipment. So that's kind of fishy.
It sets up this weird, not weird, I mean, it sets up a good, like, is she having an affair with this guy? And so you're automatically putting your main character at odds with his support system.
Right.
And he's already starting to be suspicious now of
Yeah.
his wife. But that comes in later, too, because as the kills start piling up and he starts investigating them, everyone in the towns keeps saying, well, talk to your wife.
Yeah.
Have you talked to your wife about it? And you're like, oh, my God. Like, how
Yeah.
how is she, like, sleeping with everybody in
All,
this town?
all roads seem to keep leading to her.
Exactly, yeah.
And we haven't seen her among the townspeople that are killing, so we don't know if she's really connected with the killings or anything.
I'm sure that's intentional to keep building the
yeah.
mystery.
Absolutely.
And you know that hotel owner, we need to talk about this real quick. Michael, you and I were kind of like stunned at that part when he starts talking. I mean,
No one reined this man in.
yeah, he was just going for it, man.
What's the actor's name, Jason?
Macon McCollman played Ben, the hotel owner.
Has he done anything else that's notable? Or?
he was amazing in this. Like,
Not that I can see.
he had to have like ad-libbed a lot of the lines or something.
He kept slipping in and out of a New England accent.
He
through
was
the whole-
really the only actor going for that whole New England sound.
Yeah.
But he didn't nail it every time. It was when he did nail it, he was really giving it his best John Lithgow. You don't want. No, I'm sorry, Fred Gwynn. You don't want to go down there,
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
John
really,
Lithgow was in the remake.
yeah, that's what I was
which
thinking.
actually isn't all that bad. But okay. We'll talk about that later.
But yeah, when you're watching this guy, he is so much overacting over every single person on screen.
Yes.
Like you're surprised there's scenery left because this dude's just been chewing it the whole time.
I loved him.
He's having a great time.
And it comes to find out that might be on purpose.
Sure.
Because, as we're going to reveal here in a few minutes, I don't realize... Oh, shit, now that I'm thinking about it, I was just being real critical and thinking that he was just, like, really chewing the scenery, but
Yeah,
maybe
the
he
good
was...
times of the plot now, couldn't
Maybe
Yeah.
he was supposed to.
A revelation.
I was
Right.
being a little judgmental.
That's why it's good for us to talk through these.
Yeah.
All right, so
So then you get that family coming into town.
Right.
They're coming in the nighttime, and there's fog everywhere. It's atmospheric as hell.
I love all of the fog in this movie. It is like constant during the day, at night. It almost makes you feel like you're in a dream. And since you don't really know what's going on, that just piles it on there.
Yeah, it does give that kind of a surreal quality. You're right. And they're killed. This time, a lot less bloodier. You didn't really see a lot in this scene.
Yeah, but I think the super cool thing about their reveal is that they need to find a place. Didn't they need to like use the bathroom or something? The kid needed to go pee.
They were lost. They needed directions and they needed to get gas.
They stopped at a diner.
Right.
It turns out the kid just wanted some ice cream.
Yeah, yeah. So they go into this diner and like the waitress pops up and it's every single person in that room that was at the killings.
Right.
And you're like, oh no.
So you know this family is not making it out.
They're not going to make it.
And there was the transient kill before that, too. There was the old drunk guy.
Yep.
Now, that guy was also chewing every bit of scenery, too.
Yeah.
And I don't think his had anything to do with the story. I think his was he didn't get a whole lot of direction. And they're like, play a drunk transient. And he's like, I'm going to swing for the fences.
Man, he gave it all, man.
Maybe he was a method actor and he really got drunk.
He could have been. He
Who
could have
knows?
pulled the Jaws thing.
But his death is pretty gory, too. He's got that great throat slash and everything. But you'll notice as the film progresses, the kills get less gory.
Yeah. What I did like about them going after this family, though, is that you can tell, like, nothing is sacred or safe here. Like, they're going to kill the kid.
Right.
Yeah,
The stakes are really high the entire time.
and they give you a chance to think that they've actually made it away. Mm-hmm. And then a lady pops out of the back seat of their car that's just been hiding in there while they weren't in it. And you're like, damn. This, like, it tells you, those kills tell you, once you've come into this town and it's decided you're going to die, you're going to die. Like, you're not getting out of here.
Yeah. And the whole time all this is going on, the sheriff, Dan Gillis, is working with the coroner, Dobbs.
And Dobbs is a little weird.
A little eccentric, I think is the word.
But you don't suspect him of anything.
Right at the start, I kind of suspected him, but then as the film progressed and they started to, like, bond together and work on solving the case, I really had no aspersions that he could be involved at all.
Well,
Right.
Dobbs is very passionate about his work. He's insulted when anyone says, like, the sheriff's in there watching him do his job, and he said that's an awful lot of work for someone who's just going to end up in a pine box, you know.
Right.
And then Dobbs goes crazy saying, no, this is an art, and I am the artist.
That's actually super cool, though, because so there's a mortician in my family, and we don't talk about his work that much, but he takes the same level of pride in his work that Dobbs did.
Yeah.
Like, I can make this person look a certain way so that their family remembers them the way that they wanted to remember them.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I don't think that every mortician does that.
Right, and Dobbs even says something to that effect.
Yeah, that they are. This is a moment in time
It's
that's
the-
going to be frozen for them.
It's the last moment the loved ones will ever see them.
So it may be super difficult for you to do, but it's worth it. It's worth it to make this perfect and right.
Right.
So that was a very good level of authenticity for me
No.
to see, because you don't always see coroners or morticians in films portrayed that way. They're usually kind of bumbling and like
Usually eating a
eating a
sandwich,
sandwich
on the
on-
belly
yeah,
of
on
a
the
cadaver.
corpse, yeah. So it was kind of that also pulled you away from him too. I think that led your suspicions away because this man is very particular and seems to very much care about the person that he's working on at the time.
Right. And then there's another murder that happens as well. Well, actually, before that happens, though, the sheriff's going around town trying to gather evidence, talking to people. And at the gas station, he encounters the man from the beach at the beginning, Freddy.
Freddy.
Yep.
Yeah, Freddy shows up. And this movie does a great job of not letting you see these characters again until they're just, boom, they're
Yeah.
there.
It's like they've always been there.
Yeah. Freddy looked like he's always run the gas station. He's always been the attendant.
And it's worth noting that he's not horribly burnt. He looks perfect.
Exactly. He looks exactly how he did
And
when
that's
he was first
even
seen.
when that family comes through and they talk about the gas, they say, go to the gas station, Freddy will take care of you.
Yeah, and you don't really
Right.
think about that at the time until Freddy pops up. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
shit, that was Freddy.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's our clue now that something's really going on with the murders, and this might key you in to think is this a zombie film?
Something supernatural is going on.
Right.
Yeah. We see the kid again later. The sheriff's wife is a teacher. He's in her class. And they have completely different personalities for different people.
Yeah. But as this kind of goes through, though, we're starting to see little interactions between the sheriff and the townspeople as well, that as he's starting to get closer to this, the townspeople are starting to come undone just a tiny bit. And
Yeah.
they're all...
Both figuratively and literally.
Yeah.
Yes, as in one scene that the sheriff accidentally runs over a man, just straight up hits him with his car, and the dude gets up and runs away, but he left a piece of himself.
Yeah, his arm dangling off of the...
Live and wiggling.
yeah.
Yeah, and so that was the first time in this movie where you're really like, what the hell?
Yeah, yeah.
And it was a great makeup effect, too. The arm looked good. It did look not as good as the other stuff.
Yeah, but it's good.
So our sheriff then takes skin fragments from this
Yep.
arm and takes it to who was that guy? Didn't he work for
It's
the...
more like town doctor or something.
Yeah, but he had a very elaborate chemistry setup going on that I guess this guy also did forensics for them as well.
I think so, yeah.
And runs it and says that this flesh is how many months
Like
old?
4 months old.
Yeah. And then the sheriff's like, that's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not. So we're starting to get deeper and deeper into the tunnel here as we go. And now this movie does get confusing at this point.
And even as all that's piling up, the situation with his wife complicates further, too. He finds a book on black magic.
Yes.
And a dagger, a ceremonial dagger. That's like...
and he's sort of like, hey, why do you have these? And she's like, oh, I'm just teaching a class.
You might find certain things in someone's underwear drawer, but you don't typically expect to find a ritual book of black magic and a sacrificial dagger.
Typically, no.
I mean, you might have mine, but...
And so even as that casts suspicion on her, it also muddies the waters more. Is it a zombie thing? Is it a cult thing? Is it a magic thing?
I think for me, it got me there, though. Like, once we hit black magic... I think that's when I was keyed into, I'm thinking about zombies the wrong way. And I need to go back to the original thoughts of zombies. And we need to get into voodoo. And we need to get into that whole thing.
Yeah.
Right. That they're not just like hungry for brains or whatever.
Right. And it's super easy to think, too, that this is 80s, right? What year was it?
81.
81, yeah.
So we're thinking everybody's riding high on Romero. And this would just be another zombie film. But... I mean, you didn't have other, like, I guess you have White Zombie that's always like this.
It came out like 32,
and
33 or something like that.
I Walked with a Zombie, too, kind of has that style.
It does, but it's also not really about the undead. But yeah, right.
But then you don't get your full-on primer for that, really, for most people until you get Serpent in the Rainbow, right?
Well, I love that film,
Well,
too.
I mean... The whole Haitian voodoo thing?
Yeah. That's everybody's kind of big
There's a bit of
primer.
that in, like, I Walked with a Zombie, but right. You don't really dive into it.
It's not something that you're thinking of in the back of your mind. Now, maybe we are now, because we've seen that film and we know about that. But yeah. I don't want to stray that off too far, but yeah.
Right. So then, almost immediately after the doctor tells the sheriff, hey, there's 4 months old dead skin here, he gets attacked and killed.
Yeah.
And unfortunately... The kills start getting gory again, but this one is not executed as well as the others.
No, this one was a big letdown.
They used a fake head. The person is like injecting acid into his nostrils, which should be cool.
Should be amazing.
But it's just they linger too long on it, and the head is so obviously fake, and they're just doing the whole air
fake.
bladder gag thing. Now, there's times where there's a reason for this.
Oh, yeah?
The director, Gary Sherman... Originally he had envisioned this as more of a dark comedy. And he did not intend to have a lot of gory kills in it.
Oh.
But it went through like 3 production companies, and they insisted on more gore.
Yeah, it was PSO International. They were one of the financiers.
Yeah.
I did a little research on this.
Cool.
They just kept demanding more edits and like shifts and changes in things. They didn't think the like comedy aspects would work as well.
Yeah, and this is one of those reshoots. And Stan Winston was not involved for this.
Oh, okay.
Which is why it looks like...
That explains
crap.
everything.
Yeah.
And it's really the only bad effect moment in the film, I think.
Right, exactly.
That makes a whole lot of sense.
Doesn't it make more sense? You were thinking, oh my God, how can we go from all this awesomeness that we didn't even know was special effects at the beginning and then go to this horrible fake head?
But somehow this movie survives all those cuts, though. Like, this is a rare moment where this movie survives a bunch of studio involvement and saying, no, you need to do it this way. Most films don't come out okay from that.
Typically, no. From producer meddling, no.
It usually feels like you can tell, well, somebody told them to do that here. But somehow they kept all this together. And it really still feels like one continuous story throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, it works. It works. It's just unfortunate that the special effects weren't up to par in this scene.
But it's a testament to their devotion to really see this through to its vision, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And let's clarify, this isn't the worst special effect I've ever seen.
No.
This is bad, but it's mostly just bad due to comparison to the initial special effects that you've seen.
If the rest of the film wasn't so good, it may not even be as noticeable.
Right. It could have just been one of those, like, oh, that's a bad effect that you've seen in, like, every slasher film along the way, that there's going to be one that's kind of not so great. But no, that's important to know.
Yeah. Let's see. And then
As the plot kind of thickens on now we're kind of starting to get to our reveals.
Right.
Of kind of our big, let's figure out what's going on and let's wrap everything up kind of a thing. And that's when he starts to hone in on Dobbs, right?
Right.
And kind of find... So Dobbs has a body go missing.
Yep.
Which is... Dobbs is incredibly upset about because this is his livelihood, this is his reputation, and a body's gone missing. So as our sheriff starts to team up with Dobbs to track down the body that's missing, it brings our sheriff more into the fold.
And that was Freddy's body, correct? That was missing.
Right,
yes.
right.
Yes.
It starts to bring our sheriff into really getting into that inner circle of what's going on.
Right.
So is it fair to go ahead and talk about what we see?
There's that other one kill with the hitchhiker.
It's very brief, but very striking.
Right. She's killed via rock to the head by the townsfolk. And again, it cuts away before you see it happen. So this is all in line with Gary Sherman's original vision of making it not gory, more atmospheric. But then it's like almost a direct cut to her laying on Dobbs's slab.
Right, and it's to note that all of these kills do have people there with the cameras.
Right.
Not
they're
just from the first kill. They're always there, video.
It's a continual motif throughout the film.
Yes.
And they usually say, welcome to Potter's Bluff.
Right. It's their tagline.
Great. It was very chilling every time.
Yeah. So we see her body, and it's all messed up. The head's caved in. Looks awful. Looks gruesome. And then Dobbs goes to work on it.
Right.
And during this scene, you see it starts with like her skull, basically. And then you see him putting flesh on it and skin and makeup and hair, and it becomes this girl.
Right.
And we should also mention, every time he does one of these jobs, he always puts this certain song on. It's a little record that he plays. It's almost like a ritualistic thing that he does.
Yeah.
He's also humming it when, wasn't it? So isn't his hearse like almost Ecto 1?
Pretty much,
yeah.
right.
Because I said that at first.
Yeah, it looks like Ecto 1 rolling down the hill. And this song is playing on the radio in Ecto 1 hearse.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's humming it, and he starts making, a little allusion
He's like
to
gesturing like he was conducting the band.
Interesting. Good choice of words. Good choice of words.
Yeah. And so they show Dobbs, he's messing around with the body, and, he's moving what you assume is the actress's head around, pulls up one of the eyelids, and it's empty. Mm-hmm. And then he shoves a glass eye in there. And then you realize, holy shit, that's not the actress. That's another freaking dummy head by Stan Winston.
Yeah.
And it's perfect.
It really looks exactly like her. Because when we watched that, I was thinking, how did they do that shot?
Yeah. And he takes that tool and pulls up the other eyelid that already has the eye. And I think, Dustin, even you said something like they'd have to pay you extra for something like that.
Oh, yeah. I can handle eye trauma, but it does get to me a little bit. And in this film, they had plenty of it.
Yeah, definitely. And then you realize, it's another dummy, and it's perfect. And the scenes where they show him building her, making her, that was actually Stan Winston actually constructing.
Oh, God, that's super cool.
That's
dummy.
awesome.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons he said it looked so good, because it was layer upon layer.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was there.
Right.
He could mess with it. He could move the mouth and move the teeth, and everything looked 100% authentic.
Such a genius.
Yeah. And then then Dobbs steps into frame, and he's looking down at the body. It kind of pans up, and off camera they're moving the dummy and then moving the actress in.
Cool.
So then he's saying something, and he moves away, and then she rises up, and it's the actress, and she's alive and looks perfect.
Now, is the camera going? Are the videos going at this time as well?
No, not at this point.
That comes later.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's move towards that.
Yes.
Right.
So we don't...
Let's get into the revelation of what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's important for everything that happens. So once our sheriff finally comes back around to Dobbs for our final reveal, as he comes into the funeral home or morgue, mortuary, whatever, it's kind of a blended thing going on here.
Yeah.
Small town. As he comes in, we have these projected videos and pictures all up on the walls of playing of the murders.
Yeah, it's all the footage that's been shot.
Creepy 8mm black and white stuff.
Yeah, it looks like, and I think I even said, I was like, that's kind of snuff filmish,
Playing, it is.
Playing over there. And so, but you've also seen our main hero slowly breaking down mentally through the entire film, and this is his breaking point. He's like completely distraught at this point, can't figure out what's going on in this town, but there's a central video in the middle that keeps playing, and it's of a couple having sex. It's not gratuitous or anything, it's but from that scene, that's the sheriff's wife, because you see her. You can make out who she is.
She starts stabbing the body on top of her, pushes it to the side, and it's her.
Right. It's shown that that's her.
And all the townsfolk are coming out and
So
recording it.
Now the sheriff breaks even more, because he's just seen, oh my God, my wife is, 1, having sex with someone else, 2, murdering that man with the dagger that he finds in the drawer.
Good point.
So he's starting to connect his wife to all of these murders and placing, you can see it in the actor's portrayal, that he's piecing all of these things back together going back through, and everybody's like, would you talk to your wife about it? Yeah, did you talk to her? Maybe you should talk to her about it. But as the body rolls over that she's killed, our hero sees that it was him.
Right.
And he then comes to the realization that he is one of these people as well.
And at this point, Dobbs pretty much cops to everything.
Right.
He's saying that
he's proud of it now.
Right.
Because now that he can be open about it, he's proud of what he's done.
Well, it turns out that he's the puppet master.
Yeah.
And the whole town, everyone's dead.
And buried.
And he puts them back together and makes them perfect, and has them play these little roles. I guess for his amusement.
Well, it's a city of all his perfection, forever laid out.
Right. And the sheriff's wife comes in, and she's saying the exact same dialogue from an earlier scene.
And what Dobbs even says is, I made her for you.
Yeah.
That's how he frames it.
She's dead. And he tells her she's dead. And he kind of freaks out, shoots her. She just sort of stumbles a little bit, doesn't fall down. And then she realizes that, yes, she's dead. And she says, I'm dead, Dan. Bury me.
Right.
And backs out of the room. And he follows her out to the graveyard. And she's in that open grave. And she's burying herself. She's pulling dirt.
That's a cool scene, too.
Onto herself. Yeah.
Hard to watch. Very, emotionally, pulls at you.
Yeah. Yeah, and the sheriff he's broken by this point. He's dumping dirt onto her. And then the townsfolk come out, and they're all, doing the same. They're taking, handfuls of dirt and
they're
putting
helping.
into the grave. And you can see they're all falling apart, too.
Right.
They're obviously all dead.
You find out that from Dobbs, that if he doesn't touch them up every so often,
They'll start freshen them up.
They'll start to fall apart.
And you get a little hint of that with his assistant, the teenager guy.
Yeah, you see him applying makeup at one point.
You thought, but it looked like he was a drug addict.
Yeah.
You totally buy that he's in there
because Dobbs even talked about him smoking weed earlier.
Yeah. To the cop, but. And the cop and our hero even vouches for him. He's a good kid,
he's a good
man.
Kid,
He's a good kid. You leave him alone. Don't mess with him.
And what we forgot to mention is that the sheriff also shot Dobbs.
Right.
And during this time when they're doing the burial, Dobbs he's not dead, but he's working on himself. He's embalming himself.
It's the final phase. He's going to immortalize himself.
Yeah. And then the sheriff comes back in. Dobbs is up again, looking perfect. And that's actually when the sheriff sees his own face and realizes, I'm dead too.
Right.
And he's kind of screaming. He's got his hands to his eyes. And then you hear Dobbs say, come here, Dan. Let me fix those for you.
Right.
And he lowers his hands, and the fingers are all split and rotting.
Good makeup there, too.
Yeah,
really good makeup.
Right. And that's the end.
And this is where I think this is Lovecraftian horror.
Well, there's actually 2 things I want to talk about with this.
Yeah.
So before we go deep in that, because I have a lot of thoughts there.
Okay.
Did either of you guys get a Twilight Zone, or I'm going to say some of the EC Comics vibes, like Tales from the Crypt or Vault of Horror?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think that was definitely an inspiration source on this.
Mm-hmm.
But I also felt this could have been easily a Lovecraft story.
Yes.
Kind of a Herbert West sort of thing. Not so much of an experimental, but more of a controlled...
Well, at one point they talk about Dobbs' past, and he studied at Providence, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
That was what got me on the track thinking about that.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. That
And he was
studied in
dismissed
Providence.
for, they're very nebulous about it, but some unwarranted practices he was doing.
Yeah, the typical Lovecraftian thing going on.
Yeah,
Yep.
we surmise that perhaps he did a couple of semesters with Herbert West at Miskatonic.
And this is what I wrote down. So the way Dobbs is very cheery, but he has this unhinged nature underneath. That is very much like Dr. Herbert West from Reanimator. The fact that he has this sort of undefined, maybe magical secret to resurrection brought to mind Joseph Curwen and his revivals using the essential salts of a person in the case of Charles Dexter Ward, and then Dan's mental breakdown, which you talked about, Michael. That is sort of the archetypical Lovecraftian protagonist in those final moments. Yeah, he gets some revelation that he cannot take anymore and just wipes out.
Right, he's gone.
And just like many of Lovecraft's stories, you have this lingering dread at the end. Nothing really got resolved, and this problem is just going to continue on and plague humanity into the future.
Until the next one shows up and for the next member of his menagerie.
Yeah.
And there's no stopping it, and it's just out there, and...
Yep.
That's Lovecraftian, man.
It is. It really is. Yeah, so I guess there's a few more things to talk about with this movie. We had mentioned the setting and the fog. And to me, it looked like New England.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
But they didn't shoot New England. They shot Mendocino, California.
Yeah, cool. Like you would. Naturally.
As you would, a Hollywood production, sure.
They did a good job portraying it, though, I think.
Yeah, and apparently there's a lot of natural fog in the area, so that really helped. Well, as far as reception for this movie goes, it really didn't make a splash. I think I saw that the budget was a estimated $3 million, but I could not find anything about how much it made.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It was one in the video store days. I always saw it on the shelf, and it has a great cover, really striking. It's Janet's face, right? Kind of like laying there with the dirt surrounding it.
Right. Yeah, very kind of stark. Like she's almost like in a desert. Like the earth is baked and cracked.
Interestingly, I think I've seen the cover of this more than I've ever thought about the movie.
I never saw it till now, so yeah.
But if somebody said Dead and Buried, if you've been into horror, you've probably seen that cover.
Yeah.
Somewhere. It usually pops up in some...
Oh, it haunted every mom and pop video store back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And as far as the director, Gary Sherman, he's done a few other things, right? Before this was Raw Meat.
A.K.A. Deathline, made in 1972.
I've always wanted to see that.
It's worth watching.
I know what else. Vice Squad, which is a lot of fun.
I never saw Vice Squad.
Oh, it's wild, dude. And then Poltergeist 3, which I like it. I know.
I keep forgetting he did that.
Yeah. So many production problems on that one.
So he's not a novice to horror.
No, not at all.
Speaking of haunting the video stores, this is also something I didn't know until recently, is that this film made the Video Nasties list in the UK. And for anyone unfamiliar with that, in the early 80s, there was a big brouhaha brought about by special interest groups, by parent groups, religious groups, conservative news folk. They were convinced that horror films were just destroying the youth. And they were to blame for all of society's ills. So they decided they were going to find all these movies that they deemed video nasties that should not be seen by anyone.
Right.
And this was one of them.
This doesn't belong on that list.
No, not at all.
I mean, there's some nasty kills, but not even close.
But that is the Video Nasties. It's just like... I don't care if I make anyone mad. It's a bunch of stuck-up assholes that just want to police, what's out there.
There he goes. He's done it. He's killed the podcast.
It's all opinion, but I think that, censorship is always wrong. Stuff should just be what it is, and you need to be responsible for your intake of content that's out there.
Right. Right.
Parent your kids. Be involved in their lives.
That requires work, Dustin.
Don't expect the government or some advisory board to...
Well, that's exactly what these people did, because they went to the British Board of Film Classification, and they had enough sway that they got the government involved, and movies were quite literally outlawed. There were certain video cassettes you could not sell or buy. If you did, you were going to go to jail.
It's crazy, dude.
So this was put on the list along with movies like Blood Feast, The Burning.
Oh, I love The Burning.
Yeah, it's great. Cannibal Holocaust, I Spit on Your Grave, Tenebrae, Zombie Flesh Eaters, a.k.a. Zombie. And, I mean, they were all considered contraband until they were finally given the certificates, usually not until the 90s or even into the 2000s.
It's crazy.
And even times they were still edited.
Doesn't belong.
And even then, there would still be minutes cut from it.
Right.
It's just so overreactive and insane.
But hey, now it's a badge of honor.
Damn right.
Yeah.
Damn right.
All right, well, we're running over here a little bit.
Okay.
So let's talk about our final receptions of the film.
Sure.
Dustin, what do you think of it?
I really loved this one. I've always wanted to see it. I was never sure what it was about. I thought it was a zombie movie. I wasn't too sure. Kinda is, I would say now. Super great mystery, great kills, great effects, just great across the board. There's that one, reshot bad
The doctor's head.
puppet head.
Does that affect your rating, though, knowing what happened there?
Does it? I don't really think so.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it's great. I think it's an absolute must-see. If you love zombie films, it's definitely something different. If you're fatigued on the idea of seeing stuff about the undead, this is so unique. It's definitely worth seeing. And if you just love 80s horror films, it's one to check off on your list. So I would give this about I would say 4 out of 5.
Okay,
Where I'm
that's
at
fair.
on it.
That's fair.
That's good. That's good. What do you think, Michael?
I'm going to go 4 out of 5 as well. That's what I was thinking. I'd love to give it a little higher. And maybe that rating would change as I've sat with this movie a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. But I have found myself thinking about it quite a bit since we've watched it. And it was just very different. It was something nice and refreshing to see. It's one of those cool cult classics that people talk about that you probably didn't run across. Because it's not in your face, like on the lists of movies you should see this. Mm-hmm, right. But I'm with Dustin. Definitely, if you're a horror fanatic, which you probably are if you're listening to this podcast.
You should be.
You need to check it out if you haven't seen it. And there might be a lot of you being like, oh my God, you guys haven't seen that movie? Jeez, what's wrong with you all?
Sure.
But that's part of this podcast.
It
is.
is.
To
Some
expand
things just
our
slip
minds
through the
and-
cracks, man.
Nobody can see everything.
There's
Right.
so much out there. But I'm so glad that you brought this one, though. And
Awesome.
I'm also glad of how we just spoiled it for everybody if you haven't seen
Sure.
it.
That's what we do.
But you didn't show us much about it. You didn't tell us much about it either. So we went in as blind
Right.
to the thing.
Which is the best way to do it.
And I can
So-
see this is definitely one I'm going to go back to again.
Oh, yeah. I
Nice.
definitely want to watch it again.
Yeah.
Nice. Good. Yeah, I think I agree with you guys. I'm thinking 4 out of 5. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a pretty good rating. I certainly like it better than Gene Siskel did when it came out.
What did he say?
Because I found a cool clip on YouTube. Siskel and Ebert had their Dogs of the Week feature
Come on.
on their popular movie review
those
show
make
back
me
in the
so
day.
mad.
Yeah. They didn't even bother to review the movie. They just spouted off a bunch of movies they didn't like.
Okay.
And
That's constructive. Thanks, guys.
and I will quote Siskel here. He said, "Hideously gruesome. The ads for this film say it will take your breath away. No, I think it will just make you look away as we're forced to suffer through a scalping pill of a human head and a hypodermic needle stuck in an eyeball. Yuck. You can safely avoid seeing dead and buried."
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
He did so much for film, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, let's not also forget that he totally doxed Betsy Palmer from Friday the 13th. He published her home address because he didn't like a movie.
Cool. Classy guy.
Yeah.
You do a whole episode just on the failings of...
I mean, the guy's
That
dead.
for
He can't
genre
defend
cinema.
himself, but I mean, come on.
Is
But,
he dead and buried?
Not if Dobbs got to him.
That's true.
But, yeah, I have the exact opposite view of Siskel's idea there of the movie. I think it's great. Just check it out.
Awesome. Well, next week we got an interesting one for you.
Yes. I kind of set up to you guys this idea of pink films. I've been exploring them this year. It was kind of just a random project I decided to start on.
And we'll go more into pink films in depth
Yeah, next
on
episode.
our next one. So
We'll get into
I'll
it.
catch Dustin before he gives you his pink film essay. That he
Oh,
has
and we
prepared.
will. I bought a scholarly text to bring to the next episode.
Oh, you said.
Of course he did.
But I noticed a weird thing where a lot of news sites were kind of covering pink films and talking about them, and there's some streaming sites that are going to launch like little collections of some of the newer ones that have been restored recently by boutique labels. So I thought, maybe this is a sign that we should go in on this and really dig deep and talk about them.
Fair.
So next time, we are going to cover Atsushi Yamatoya's 1967 film Inflatable Sex Doll of the Wastelands.
Yep.
Are you sure that's not a trauma film?
I promise you.
Okay.
We're going there.
I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it.
So prepare yourselves.
Nice.
All right. Exciting times. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with us. Again, as always, please write us, find us on your favorite social media platforms. We're on all of them. You can also write and email us, too, if you'd rather do that. It's genreexposure@gmail.com. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.